This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
This is Luca Perich, and you're listening to the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
Recording has started. Hello, me hearties. Yarg. And welcome once again to Super Connectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser. And with me, as always, is that blue-eyed bomber from the Burger Pits.
Phil, me, and Perich. I was getting nervous for a second. I thought I was on the wrong show. I thought I was about to become the skinny rich.
No, I'm just, I'm working on catchphrases and, and it's the mustache. It's all twirly. So me hearties. Welcome to Super Connectivity. This is a special breaking news segment of Super Connectivity because for those unaware, we have been informed that that dude 1 second.
Oh, his name?
Oh, not even giving me his name on this. The original Django actor. The original Django actor for Django Fett is returning in the new Mandalorian.
Tamura Morrison?
Tamura Morrison, thank you. Yes.
When they updated the original series, Boba Fett had the voice of Django Fett.
Yes, because he would. For those who could not hear, Tristan was pointing out that in the original series, Boba Fett had the voice of Django Fett, which is also the voice of the Clone Troopers, which is the way it works now. But, Tristan, you want to do a fun fact? You got to get really close and be loud.
Another fun fact about Boba Fett is that originally he had the name of the person who raised Boba Fett. I mean Django Fett.
Okay. Thank you so much. This is Star Wars lore that Tristan has picked up on the internet. I cannot vouch for it, but we're going to go along with it. But moving right along. So, the actor is returning to The Mandalorian, which honestly is a big thing for him when you think about it, because really he's kind of been left in that, he kind of got treated more poorly than, because he didn't wind up doing the voices even on the reboot on the cartoon versions, which was maybe a mistake on I don't know if he turned it down or they turned him down, but he's been in a rough spot because he got this iconic character to play, got basically his character said to be throughout all the Clone Troopers, but then gets no time to actually act in it. So this could be his big break. Now, the question is who is he going to play? Now, the rumor is he is Boba Fett.
Ooh.
But that's a rumor. Okay? It's like, because what is, and honestly, I think all we can really confirm right now is that the actor who played Django Fett is going to be in the new Mandalorian. But let's think about who he could be. Now, obviously, there is Rex, the clone trooper leader who, despite all odds, wound up on the Rebels and is, really a great BA in the story. You can put gray in his hair and all that kind of stuff and do that whole story.
Pointed out, a thing why stormtroopers can't aim is because for clone troopers, they can't really see in those helmets.
Yes, the helmets are a bit hard for seeing.
Yeah, once you actually suited up in a stormtrooper armor to hide.
Yes, that's also why Rex stopped wearing his helmet after that, because he's like, I can't see a thing in these freaking helmets. Which is ironic because they're actually based on Mandalorian helmets. So why are Mandalorians such good shots if you're not a good shot, Rex? Oh, the stormtrooper which doesn't have the T visor. Ah, so that's why the clone troopers were better shots. The T visor that you see in the stormtrooper helmet, can't see nothing out of that.
All right. Well,
but
I mean, there's two ways he could be playing quote unquote Boba Fett. I mean, one, this guy's been cloned how many times? One of the clones can pick up the Boba Fett outfit and be Boba Fett. Two, what if that was a clone that got killed in Return of the Jedi?
Okay. There is a third answer, and that's the answer. That's why I wanted to talk about this first. Okay. What if the Boba Fett we've seen in all the Star Wars films isn't actually Boba Fett? So, as we saw in the Mandalorian... No, listen. Hear me out. Because this is actually kind of a big plot point. Yes, Tristan made a lot of good points to me. He pointed out... So, here, to give all credence to Tristan, here are the points he made. It's unlikely it can be a clone trooper because clone troopers have accelerated aging. So it is unlikely that there are going to be that many clone troopers left by the time we get to the story of The Mandalorian, which takes place post sequel, post the main trilogy.
Yeah.
Okay. No. So that was one thing. The other thing he pointed out, actually, this wasn't so much what he pointed out. It's something I had surmised was, if you watch that first Mandalorian series, one of the points they make is that nobody knows that there's 100 Mandalorians on that planet. They know one guy who's the Mandalorian who goes and takes the jobs. And there's like an army of Mandalorians hiding on that planet that are also Mandalorians, and nobody realizes that there's that many Mandalorians on the planet. Now, the suggestion that I would make in this is, what if Boba Fett was the BA bounty hunter that everyone fears, and every so often he was like, oh, I really do not want to go to Jabba's party party today. Hey, dude, you want to... I'll give you 50 credits. Just go there, show up, wear the armor, be the Mandalorian on Tatooine. What bad could happen to you?
I like it. It could be a franchise. I mean, every time Boba Fett shows up, it could be someone else under the helmet because they're not supposed to take the helmet off, right?
Well, exactly, and that goes into this idea that what if that Boba... So, and this goes into this entire idea of Boba Fett, that literally every time we saw every time Boba Fett spoke in the original trilogy, it wasn't actually Boba Fett. It was the guy who said, dude, I just need you to run to Cloud City. Okay, Vader's going to do all the work, okay? Just get the bounty, bring it back to Tatooine. Hey, you even get to go to the party on the barge afterwards, okay? Won't that be nice?
As we see, those helmets in Star Wars can make you sound like anyone. I mean, look, Anakin Skywalker sounded completely different after they strapped him into all that Darth Vader stuff. I mean, come on. I mean, hey, you know what? Disney would love that idea of Boba Fett as a franchise because you could have them show up in any of the series. It's like, oh hey, this time look, maybe there's a female Boba Fett.
Well, they've already done that with The Mandalorian, where they've established that yes, there are these Mandalorians, and the differentiation that people.
But you could have a whole gang or clan that just has the Boba Fett identity.
Which is literally what they did on The Mandalorian. That's what they said. And literally what I'm telling you is so we're 2 steps behind Disney. You thought you were smarter than Disney? Oh, sweet summer child. They're like Bendis, man. They were like Skrulls 40 issues ago before he even told everyone that those were all Skrulls. Based on the thought that he was going to get the chance to tell the Skrull invasion. He made Spider-Woman a clone decades before. It's like, no, she was totally a clone that whole time. And that's what Disney does, man. That's why DC paid all that money for Bendis, because it's like, okay, Bendis, you're gonna sow those seeds for us, right? You're gonna tell us what that big overarching story. You're gonna pull the mask off at the end and say, "Aha! See, it was Gus Gorman the whole time." Mwah! And you watch, he's coming.
Speaking of, if
I'm telling you, David F. Walker, he met with Brian Michael Bendis, and he said, "Oh yeah, man, I was talking to this guy." And he said something about Gus Gorman. He says, "Why did you say that name?" And it's a whole thing. I'm sure.
If you want a big deep dive on Superman 3, go check out Happiness and Darkness, the superhero movie podcast, where Charlie Esser did a almost 2.5 hour review of Superman 3.
It's just that good. Yes, Happiness and Darkness, friend of the show, and he said, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but he said he was looking for people to talk Fantastic Four movies with him. And and I'm just saying.
It won't be till September, but I'm going back for a second time. So yeah, I'm sure he'll have me back again. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm excited about it. And listen to all of the Happiness and Darknesses. I can't guarantee they'll be as good as my entry.
Well, the episode
but I'm sure the others are good as well.
I was the episode before you. I talked Batman Returns. So.
Okay. Oh, that was a good one. Okay, Tristan, come here and tell me what you want to tell me.
Come here, boy.
Just quick. This is a show. Can't have dead air, Tristan. Okay, come here. You're off camera. I'm
gonna teach you show business.
Speak loudly into the mic.
Okay, well, one thing about your theory is that the Mandalorian can't be Boba Fett because they do know that Boba Fett is a clone and he does not look like Jango Fett. And
no. Oh, no. Oh, the Mandalorian doesn't look like Jango Fett.
Yeah.
Yes. No, the Mandalorian isn't. Okay, because he only hears half the conversation. I wasn't saying that the Mandalorian was Boba Fett. I'm saying that the series The Mandalorian, set up this idea that basically all Mandalorians look alike to non-Mandalorians. So it's entirely possible. That Boba Fett, who is a BA bounty hunter, essentially had another Mandalorian that was like his sidekick. And said, you can go do, because maybe he didn't want to do all the party stuff. This guy wanted to be the glad hander, wanted to go shake hands with Darth Vader, do the whole thing, hang out at Jabba's palace. And he's like, okay, you hang out at Jabba's palace, you wear the armor, you hang out at Jabba's palace, you go do that aspect. I'm gonna go do all the bounty hunting, make all the money, and that way we're both happy. And that's what I was trying to say. And what the Mandalorian showed us is that even though there's dozens of Mandalorians on that planet, they all call our Mandalorian the Mandalorian because no one realizes that all the other Mandalorians they see are a different Mandalorian. Okay.
Anyway, also, the things that you said about my plot, about the thing I noticed, I didn't see that it couldn't have been a clone. I said maybe it could have been a clone because clones look and sound exactly like Boba Fett. So he could have gotten one so that Jabba wouldn't say, hey, this guy sounds different.
Yes.
And another thing is, in The Mandalorian, it actually shows us Mandalorians back in the day actually have the green and red colors.
That is true, yes. So yes, to sum all that up, I don't know if Phil could hear any of that, and if Phil couldn't hear it, you couldn't hear it. But yeah, so because Tristan was saying maybe Boba Fett, instead of getting another Mandalorian to do it, actually got another clone trooper to be the guy, or one of the stormtroopers, maybe a stormtrooper who didn't want to be a stormtrooper anymore, hired him to be his, the face of the company, the guy who would go out and do the glad handing and do all that, which would be a delightful thing. The only thing is because, yeah.
It's easy enough because he never even took off that helmet in any of those, in that original trilogy. So it literally could have been anyone.
Yeah. The reason why I think because that explains why it's a different actor. So there's an actor who played Boba Fett in the original series, and then there's the actor who's going to be playing Boba Fett now.
Yeah.
Arguably, maybe. We hope, because I do hope that. I think that would be great. That maybe it's going to be revealed that yes, that other Boba Fett was just another Mandalorian that I hired, or that I, because there's a lot of us Mandalorians. I'm doing this work. I don't always want to go hang out with Jabba the Hutt. Honestly, the guy smells, or whatever it is, or like he's not comfortable with everything that Jabba does to maintain his rule and order. It is what it is. But that's the Mandalorian. Well, he harasses mammalians because Jabba's not a mammal. I'm just gonna say that. And if you're not a mammal, why would you be attracted to some crazy hairy mammalian creature? With a bunch of swollen glands and gangly arms. It's like it's gross. Man. So it's like saying, "Oh, look at that spider. That's a hot spider." It's like, no, that spider is not hot. You have a problem. You should see a doctor. But that is the Mandalorian. Other news is actually I wanted to talk about your recommendation to me from last week's Super Connectivity, Daredevil 223. And okay, so first off, I like this. We have an entire cast of characters who are not on Netflix, which is amazing. And we get a mention of Turk. It's a Secret Wars too. We got actually someone. They've got a paralegal named Becky in a wheelchair.
Yes.
And why is this the first I'm hearing of this?
I'm trying to remember if she took over immediately after, because was it in the 60s or 70s? Yeah, Karen Page goes off to be an actress in Hollywood, and this issue is 4 months before Born Again when Karen Page comes back. So
okay, so
anyway,
yeah, I love the Beyonder in this. Of course, there's our classic Frank from Bayonne. He does a whole co-location and thing. And what I love about this is he really is very Beyondery. He is not evil. He is totally just trying to, find his way to make his communication with this guy. And I also like the fact that he gives him his eyes back, but doesn't de-heighten any of his other sentences. So he's basically, now he has all of his senses as super. Although then he immediately falls in a vat of chemicals, ironically.
Well, it's okay. It threw him off balance.
I was like, I fell in a vat of chemicals. Now I'm horribly mutated again.
As he said, I thought I hallucinated at first because, after all these years, all of a sudden his eyes turned back on.
Yeah, which it was also kind of like a jerk move by the Beyond. I think had the Beyonder really like talk to him about it, this is your classic socially awkward Beyonder.
Yeah, at least it was not mid-swing.
Yeah, but just the idea that he is he is delightful in that sense. But this, I gotta say, is like one of the weirdest scenes in this entire book, which shows that where Matt Murdock basically stares at a baby for an hour. Or let me see exactly how long does she say?
5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes. Well, still, it's like, sir, you've been staring at my baby for 5 minutes, and not for nothing. It's not like he's like across the park. He's like, ooh, it is a baby. But also he's probably like not doing baby things with the baby. He's just like staring at it. It's like, are you going to eat my baby, sir? And of course, loves New York City. Go sees the new love of his life, Irish girl, who's Gloriana. A photographer. Gloriana, she's Irish, and she's a photographer, ironically enough. And he doesn't want to tell her. Obviously, he hasn't told her his secret identity. Although, for what it's worth, in this universe, there's a guy by the name of the Beyonder. He wants to hire me. This was his retainer for me. But what I do love is this entire. Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was just sorry. I mean, literally, he could have told her that whole story and left the Daredevil part out of it.
Yeah, well, exactly, because it's not even like the Beyonder's like, oh, well, you're Daredevil, so you must handle superhuman crimes, right? He's like, no, you work with the Avengers, so you handle this kind of weird stuff. But what I love about this is him basically saying what I liked about it wasn't so much that he chose to eject the eyesight because his actual take on it is that this gift means a lot to me, and the more I have it, the more I realize it's going to make me not want to be that guy because essentially the Beyonder is hiring him because look, however I do it, I want to do it legally. I want to do it morally and justly. So you tell me how to do it morally and justly. Yeah. And I will buy the world, Because it's not like he couldn't do all that,
Yeah, because at first
it's not like he couldn't.
Well, I think it even said, because then earlier in Secret Wars 2, he just snapped his fingers basically and brainwashed the whole world. He's like, oh yeah, I'm king of the world. And he's like, yeah, that wasn't fulfilling. So now I want to do it legally. And and Foggy and Matt are like, oh, I don't know. And then he's like, here, Foggy, here's $1 million. Foggy's like, okay, I'm on board.
Well, yeah, but again, he gives him $1 million from a safe in a sunken ship, which means it's mine by right of salvage, which isn't exactly how right of salvage works. But he's not a lawyer. What does he know? But basically says, yeah, here is this. So again, he gets that. He doesn't counterfeit the money. He doesn't steal the money from Fort Knox. He says, okay, this is how I can legally give you $1 million. If you want $1 million, because he could have just done the whole "I'll turn your building into gold" thing,
No,
he's learning. It's a learning curve, but he gives him that $1 million free and legal, and then he gives Murdoch his sight. And of course, and that's the whole thing about it, is he gives Matt the sight, and Matt says, you know what? I can't guarantee that I will continue to have justice as my highest priority if you've given me this gift.
Well, yeah, he says
because you've given.
Yeah, he says the Beyonder literally comes to him because of his profound sense of justice, and he's like, you know what? I can't say I'm going to be, impartial since you've given me my greatest desire. So take it back.
Exactly. And I love that, that the Beyonder's cool with that. He's like, no, great. This actually gives me a lot of insight. But it also, man, it really sets up that idea of, so there's two ways you can do a what if with this story. One is, what if the Beyonder doesn't give him his eyesight? Meaning, because the reason he gives Murdoch his eyesight is because he's thinking, maybe I should do this.
Yeah.
Because it would be the morally just, because this guy will be the morally just person to do that. And what if the story is that the Beyonder actually gets to buy the world, and then from there gets to buy the Kree Empire and the Skrull Empire, and through purely legal means, with Matt Murdock at his side, and then that basically at the end of it, it's like, well, now that you've done this for me, then he gives him the sight.
Oh.
And then Matt had, old man Matt, because it took years to do this.
Oh, yeah.
But of course, he kept them all alive,
Own the universe, yeah.
Exactly, to own the universe. But he eventually does, owns Mephisto, because he says, well, Matt Murdock, can you legally give me Mephisto's realm? So, well, really, technically, all you got to do is sit on that throne, and you own the whole. From what I've been able to discern from these arcane lores, you sit on that throne, you get to rule all of the afterlife. It's like, okay,
Johnny Blaze can do it. If Johnny Blaze can do it.
Yeah, and again, like you say, it's like, and the Beyonder is of that nature that he could sit there and he could do it, and he could, and that would be a really interesting universe to see. And then of course, the funny thing then is like, okay, I've got it. Still not fulfilling, got all the legal. I worked hard, I got it, and it's like, because it's really it's only a game, and now I've won the game. And what do you do once you've won the game?
Yeah,
and so that is a brilliant.
Basically, once you own all of existing, what's left?
Exactly, and Alexander, he wept, for there were no more worlds to conquer. Despite the fact that there was literally another continent right there, but it's like, okay, Alex, you've conquered everything. I conquered as much as I know about.
Or I thought you were going to say the what if he had kept his eyesight? Because even like when Matt's like, no, me and Foggy, without talking to Foggy, he's like, yeah, me and Foggy aren't going to help you. And the Beyonder even says, he's like, oh, you can, okay, that's fine, but you can keep the eyesight, consider it a gift. And Matt's like, no, take it back.
I know. Well, yeah, because he doesn't want the filthy lucre. But, should have talked to Foggy about it, because, because I'm sure you would have told, keep the $1 million. What the heck, Although I did like the fact that Foggy was even like, man, this is going to be a bear for legal case.
Yeah, but again, too, is it like morally right to help him, though? Because you're basically selling the entire planet into slavery, aren't you?
No. There's a law against slavery. You can't legally sell a person.
Yeah, but if he owns the entire planet, I'd assume he would own everything and everyone on it.
No, he just has to own 51%. As Snowball taught us, when he bought 51% of the world's. This is from Pinky and the Brain, and the evil Snowball, voiced by Roddy McDowell, who will always be Charles Xavier to me. Never got to play with Charles Xavier, which is sad. But Roddy McDowell, as Snowball, basically says, he actually creates Microsoft and his Bill Gates and that, and then he pays off the debts of 51% of the countries of the world, and he says, "Wow, you now own 51% of the world." It says, "Yes." He said, "You own a 51% stake in the world." It says, "Yes, that's the interest, the controlling interest. And because I own the controlling interest in the world, now I rule the world." And that is the idea. And the idea of legally. So, for example, you want to be the legal ruler of America. You elect a president, and you elect congressmen, and you elect senators and governors and all these things to being people who are going to be loyal to you, and suddenly you can rule that. Mm-hmm. And then you just have to stay on top of it too, which is why it's a bit of a shell game, but you can do it. That's the thing. It's like you can have freedom and absolute rule. It's just difficult. But the Beyonder, being omnipotent, arguably could do it. It's sort of like, when you read Red Sun Superman, and like, well, once you're Superman, suddenly you can achieve a lot more with a collective Soviet style government that you couldn't if it was just run by human beings. So the question, and it's sort of in Matt's case, it becomes this moral question for him. Is like, well, I want to take care of the world. The moral choice is to take care of the world. Yeah. This being can destroy the world. Maybe if I take this case, it'll be enough of a distraction for him that I'm going to keep him busy as we try to buy all the things of the world. Because at the same time, in that growth of the Beyonder, this could have been this thing where the Beyonder actually does grow. So for example, he doesn't have to own every car. Because what's the point of owning every car?
Yeah.
He just needs to, because he probably doesn't want to own every car. Doesn't want to own Ford Motor Company. He wants to be in charge of a lot of things. He wants to be in charge of enough stuff that he can say he runs the world.
Well, I think too, Matt even had the thought where he was like, this is going to take years. Maybe in that time I can like point him in like the right direction, and
Exactly. And so there is a moral argument that he can make in this. And the Beyonder, for what it's worth, wants to make that step.
Mhm.
So there is a fantastic what if to be written about this story where, yes, where either he keeps his sight or where he takes the case and the Beyonder doesn't give him his sight, or where he gives him the sight and he takes the case and then that leads to his eventual corruption.
Mm.
Because then he becomes his yes man because he doesn't want to lose his sight. There are all sorts of ways you can splice it. I like the idea of him, or the other, maybe even more beautiful way is that he gets the sight, and then when it really comes down to it, brass tacks on the wire, he says, "You know what? You want to fire me? Fire me. Take my sight back. I'm not going to tell you that you can do this legally in a just and moral way." And the Beyonder says, "Fine." And and then doesn't do that thing, or just like he eventually beats the Beyonder because the Beyonder has set himself into a game, and once you enter the game, the only way to leave the game is to kick over the board, but he can never kick over the board without admitting that he was foolish to do the game. Of course, then he could also just blink and destroy the universe. So,
or what if, Charlie? What if in not just giving him his eyesight back? What if the Beyonder shares part of his power with Matt Murdock?
He did that with Dazzler. Dazzler wasn't too pleased. As it is, like sharing part of your infinite power with people, usually just, unless you're Doom, nobody even wants it. And even Doom, if you read the rewrite of Secret Wars that they did in the early aughts, I think it was, where they retell the story of the Secret Wars, but they sort of like do like stuff that happened off panel, and they have like Doom get the Beyonder's powers, and the Beyonder and Doom are just talking, because all of a sudden, like, Doom is like, "Oh, I actually am omnipotent, and none of this nonsense that I'm usually obsessed with matters." And they're gonna fight me, and it's like, "Oh, I guess I could blow them up or something," but it's like, why should I? And there's even one of my favorite scenes of that is him just like actually looking at Reed Richards' brain and says, "Why, both, like, I can see, like, why did I not acknowledge this man's genius? And why did I have to be like constantly, why was I such a petty jerk my whole life?" And then him and the Beyonder have this conversation about it. It's like, "Yeah, of course, I'm going to be taking your power back in a few minutes." It's like, "Yeah, I know, I'm omniscient too." And it's just a really beautiful scene.
It's such a tiny scar.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's like it is such a beautiful thing, because that's the thing. You give a human omniscience, and suddenly the human goes, "Oh, well, I guess everything about being a human was kind of silly." Okay. So yeah, I don't think giving Daredevil like part of. I mean, honestly, if you want to go a deeper way, you have this idea where, kind of the interesting idea is like maybe like the Beyonder says, "Well, I could be with you and be you, and I could just let you take control of me, and then you can be the moral judge of the universe. You could be God." Of course, then Daredevil's definitely going to reject that. It's like, "No, I'm Catholic. There's a God, and I don't want to have to answer to the Pope." So yeah, there's lots of ways you could. Has this been a what if? Have they done a what if off of this story? Because this is like, this seems like pure what if fodder, man. How does Conan stuck in the 20th century get like dozens of stories, but Daredevil and the Beyonder don't?
It seems like when they do Daredevil ones, they do more street level stuff. Like there was one, what if he had killed Kingpin during Born Again? What if the Punisher had killed Daredevil? They do stuff like that. Yeah, they don't do the stuff.
I know, but it's just, but he has this moral center. That's one of his most interesting things. Is like, man, if you even want to do a street level version of that, you do like, what if Carnage had taken over Daredevil?
Oh.
And then you do the story similar to what happened with like when Silver Surfer took over Carnage, and it's like the Silver Surfer was so pure that he didn't become Carnage, at least according to Tristan. I get all my Carnage lore from Tristan. So that when the Carnage Surfer came about, it's like the Surfer's Norrin Radd's soul in that symbiotic relationship with Carnage dominated the murderous nature of it. Okay, you're too far away to hear on the microphone, so yes. Anyway, we'll talk after the show, Tristan. Good night. If you don't want to come to the mic, you gotta be quiet.
Why people will call you people.
Yes. Anyway, but yeah. So so if Carnage had infected Daredevil, these are stories that would be really interesting. Exploring the moral quality of Daredevil, I think, is what makes Daredevil an interesting character. Probably what was missing from the Ben Affleck story is I don't think we ever really got his deeper moral quandaries, especially its religious aspects. Which I guess you can argue. I don't know if that was anything that Stan Lee wrote into the character because obviously it was the '60s and Stan Lee wasn't Catholic, so
yeah, no, I think that was a whole. I think Frank Miller started that whole thing, the whole Catholic thing.
Yeah, that's all a Frank Miller thing. Yeah, he was always a moral guy and a guy who believed in justice and democracy. But I think like in Stan Lee's era, he was like a justice guy rather than a Catholic guilt guy. Like the justice was because justice is justice.
Yeah,
and Catholic guilt guy is, well, I'm guilty for being a Catholic, and so I should feel bad about that. Anyway, let's see. Was there anything else on my list worth talking about? Let me see. Let's see here. Boba Fett we talked about.
Miles Morales or Thanos.
Yeah, Thanos is a real short one. So I think Thanos is in a really toxic relationship with Death.
Duh.
I think Death has rejected him at every turn.
Oh, it cuckolds him for Deadpool. Of course, Death.
Oh, first off, don't call it a cuckolding. It's not you can't cuckold someone you're not in a relationship with. Okay, and this is now you got me mad because this is the whole thing. This is the thing about the Thanos-Death relationship. Everyone thinks, Death and Thanos are in a relationship, and Death is like, no, I ain't, because not for nothing. Every other time you see Death, she has a personality. Even in that whole thing where she and the Beyonder meet and Beyonder kills her and she willingly takes the cup, she has more personality, more emotion in those scenes with the Beyonder than she does in any scene she ever has with Death. And this is I'm gonna say it. Thanos is a rapist. Because Thanos is constantly forcing Death into this relationship. Forcing Death, saying, look at all these people I killed. Aren't you happy? And it's like, why do you think this makes me happy? Why do you think dragging me out here to collect all these souls would make me happy? Why do you force me out of my existence into this to be here? Because you see, when she's with Deadpool, when she's Crackers the Clown, any other personification of Death, she's usually pretty much cool. She is like helping people across who have passed. Thanos is trying to be with her, and that she won't be with her makes him force himself on her. And in that way, I think his relationship is even more toxic than the Harley Quinn Joker relationship. Because, yes, Joker is 1000% an abusive boyfriend to Joker, but at least he's her boyfriend.
Yeah.
At least she entered into that at one point willingly. And then after that, it's like now Joker's a horrible person. But like if Joker actually was a better person and actually did do better, then you could say, well, okay, he's a better person. Or if he never was that bad guy, if he always had love for her, and that was his line, he would not cross, he would not ever hurt Harley. He may be standoffish and mean, but he wouldn't hurt Harley. You could say, okay, they have a crazy mad love relationship, but we like when you look at Natural Born Killers, that's how Woody Harrelson and
Juliette Lewis.
Oh, Juliette Lewis, their relationship is very much, it's not abusive, it's we're killers and we love each other and we're going to be in this positive homicidal relationship.
And pretty much, the Joker doesn't even have the raw power to be on the scale of Thanos anyway. Even if he wanted to, he just lack of power.
Yeah, well, yeah, but even in that concept, the Joker is, he is a human character in a human relationship. Thanos is a character in a non-human relationship, and yet he is still forcing himself onto this being who is a personification. Yes, she is the esoteric personification of death, but in an esoteric genre, she has a real persona. And so I think that there is this romanticization of Thanos' relationship with death that I think is completely unfounded. And it really bugs me. It really frosts my knockers. So I think we really need to say, Thanos, leave death alone. Because you are a bad person, Thanos, and no amount of wrapping it in, it's for the good of the universe storyline that you want to force onto your own selfish, toxic relationships helps you.
My knockers.
Because I think that, after the MCU version, there's this, Thanos was right. It's like, no, Thanos was never right. And even if you want to say, at no point is he right in any storyline. And when you integrate the idea of his romance with death, it becomes even less right. And, he is a petty little toxic man who should be seen as a petty little toxic man who is a villain, much like Dr. Doom, that dropout, a pathetic little man trying to grab things that just don't belong to him.
You're basic.
Tristan, you're too far away. Dr. Doom does get some redemption at times, but very rarely does he actually have real redemption.
He always backslides.
Yes, I know you're talking just to me, but I'm on the podcast now. So if you want to talk in the podcast, you can come into the podcast. I'm very welcoming of you podcasting, but you are too lazy, as you say. Okay, so that is the Thanos thing. And along those same lines, they recently changed the name of Gypsy on MST3K to GPC, which has a lot of people mad because they're very bad people. So here's how it works, because people say, well, why? Just because people said that Gypsy is offensive, why is Gypsy offensive? Because that's how it works. So short answer. If someone says something is offensive to them and you don't mean any harm by it, then you stop using that term. Because after someone says it's offensive and you do it, then all harm is intended. So, yeah. So Gypsy is GPC. That's life. We're all going to get on with it. Moving right along. Anything else that's going to bug me? I'm sure there's all kinds of DuckTales stuff that I want to get to, but you know what? We'll leave that
Miles Morales
for a future issue. Miles Morales? Miles Morales? What did I say about Miles Morales?
I don't know. You said something about Miles.
What did I say about?
I'm gonna look, but I don't know if you explained what. Oh wait.
Yeah, I don't.
Will they?
There was something about.
Will they introduce Miles in the next live-action Spider-Man film to convince the world?
Oh yeah, so that's that. Yeah, that's a real small one. Hey, do you think they'll have Miles Morales in the next live-action Spider-Man film? I think so, because you know what that does?
What's
It allows you to have a reasonable what exactly, because everyone and Daredevil would be cool, but let's be honest, Daredevil is no Spider-Man. And the biggest problem with putting Miles Morales in, Spider-Man 3 Electric Boogaloo is that, and by the way, they should call it Spider-Man 3 Electric Boogaloo, just to be crazy. And the problem is that you suddenly have this thing, wow, you're another teenager with spider powers? How'd you get yours? Spider bite? We should probably figure out where that spider is. It's a little on the nosy, if you will, but at the same time, it would be cool if they introduce Miles, if they introduce the idea that, oh, here's this other Spider-Man in the MCU, because they've already sort of hinted at it prior to this, because they had the Prowler played by who played the guy
Donald
who
Glover.
says his nephew in
Donald Glover.
That was Donald Glover, yeah. So, yeah, I thought that was Donald Glover. Yeah. Says my nephew in I got a nephew in Brooklyn,
Yeah.
And so that's awesome. And then to have that kid get the spider powers would be great. And then, you have Peter Parker, and then all of a sudden you have that guy flipping around, climbing the walls, doing all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I don't know who this guy is, but he ain't me, man. To flip and then fly off. This guy's probably a night monkey or something. I don't know. Yeah. And that would be awesome and cool. And it solves that whole problem. So, that's my take on that. So I would love it if they introduced Miles in the next Spider-Man film, because it actually solves the who is Spider-Man Peter Parker problem real easy, because you actually have another Spider-Man, and that solves that problem. Okay, Philip, anything else?
No, I think
anything else you want to talk about, or do you want to go to bed? Okay.
I'm good.
No, Phil doesn't sleep.
I know.
Phil's a replicant. He doesn't sleep. He never sleeps. He's like Wolverine. He just has his eyes for a moment, and he puts his brain in REM, and then he wakes right back up. So,
best there is.
That's what Wolverine does. It was in Avengers, so it's true. Okay, so Philip, how can people find you if they'd like to find you?
Well, if you would like to contact me personally, you can always email me nightwingpdp@gmail.com. I'm on Twitter @nightwingpdp. But if you would like to contact Capes and Lunatics, you can always email us, capesandlunatics@gmail.com, or call our handy dandy voicemail, 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES.
And hey, while you guys are all doing that, why don't you take a moment and support some of our sponsors, like Tweaked Audio, who provide amazing audio devices, which you may have use for it if you're listening to podcasts. Yeah, so look up Tweaked Audio. If you're a person who likes, brainy stuff, go to that Hunt a Killer site, because it's lets you hunt a killer, and that sounds like fun. I'm not a smart guy, so I wouldn't do that. But if you're not dumb like me, you might like to hunt a killer. And of course, whatever you're buying, because you got to buy something right now. Why don't you go down to the Amazon link in our show notes, click on that thing, and it's going to take you right to Amazon, just basic Amazon. We can buy everything you ever wanted on Earth, including books on Kindle for some reason. And I think it might even link to Comixology. You got to look into that. But do that, buy some stuff, and cost you nothing. Helps out us here at the show, because why not? What's it going to hurt you? So do all that stuff, and then when you're done, why don't you write to me about it? Tell me about your adventures on the internet, or your killers you've hunted at the email, just like our Maz and Paz once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter, because you know what's coming back, Philip?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is coming back. Sousa's back. And crazy thought, I'm thinking maybe he's not crippled like before he meets like our future agents, and then like the adventures they have. That's how he gets his leg blown off.
Well, think about
It's like,
it.
Way to go,
Did he
dude.
get injured
I'm like,
in
short a leg.
Didn't he get injured in World War II? Aren't they traveling back to pre-World War II?
Well, yeah, or maybe that's just the cover story. We'll get you there. Like they give him like, wouldn't that be awful? He hurts his leg and says, "That's okay. Your leg was hurt in World War II." It's like, well, no, man, you hurt my leg in this, but we'll give you a perfect cybernetic leg right now. But then once it gets blown off in World War II, we're gonna give you back a bad leg, just to maintain continuity. This is why I tell you, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to set up the Time Variance Authority. Mark my words. Anyway, if you'd like to mark my words, do
Mark
so
word.
while I'm tweeting about this show at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing!
Thank you, Maz. Getting a little late on the pickup there, Maz, so you don't want to watch that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for connecting with us once again this week. Please tune in next week and super connect with us again. Good night.
Good night.
That's one of those words that it really has no meaning, tune in. Because, the actual idea of tuning in relates to, the channel on a radio, but you actually used to have to manually adjust it.
I think it's from
to actually get to where the...
Yeah, it's from back in the day. It's back in the day from radios and TVs and stuff.
Yeah. But you actually used to have to physically tune in a station. Like, it wasn't like, oh, it's station... 99.9 or whatever. You actually had to physically move